Hi, my name is Eric Olson, and I am the elementary school instructional coach at KISJ. And I'm here today to talk to you about MAP testing. MAP testing is an external assessment for learning. And there are three important parts to consider here when we think about MAP testing. First, the word external. The MAP test is set and marked by NWEA, not KIS. So we have an unbiased objective assessment. The second word, assessment. An assessment is primarily a communication between the student and the teacher and the parent. It is not a gotcha moment that says, why couldn't you do this? Or why didn't you do that? And the third word to think about is for learning. The MAP test done in the fall is for learning. Teachers use the results to set and plan specific goals for each student. When students are taking the MAP test, the test generates questions unique for each student based on the student's response. So if a student gets a question right, they may receive a higher question in that same category. If the student gets a question incorrect, they may see a lower question in that category until the test is able to determine exactly where the student is. When the students are done with the test, we receive reports with the students' results in what is called a Writ score. These results are usually given to us within a few days of the test being taken. The MAP test is aligned with the KISJ curriculum standards, and it measures growth over time. It also provides information used to target individual instructions for teachers to help students. So who takes the MAP test? Well, at KISJ in the elementary school, grades 2 through 5 take the MAP test. Grades 2, 3, and 4 use their iPads, while students in grade 5 use their MacBooks. And when is the MAP test given? It is given twice a year, in the fall and then again in the spring. In the fall, the students take the reading test, the language usage test, and the math test. In previous years, students took a science test as well, but we no longer give that test, although it may show up on your reports from past years. Why is the MAP test administered? The main focus of MAP testing is not what the student achieves on one given test. The focus is on growth. To focus on any one given test as an indication for student achievement is not valid and just plain unfair. Teachers use multiple measures to assess student progress and growth. As such, the main focus of MAP testing is the growth a student makes from one test point to another. Growth over time is important to us. We expect Writ scores to increase over time. Typically, younger students show more growth in 1 year than older students. Students who test above grade level often show less growth the next year. Sometimes Writ scores may decline from one test to the next. One low score is not a cause for immediate concern. Like adults, students have good days and bad days, and their test results do not always indicate what they can do on that particular day. Students' attitudes towards the test can also change their scores. Therefore, growth over time is a better measure of student learning. Parents and guardians should become comfortable with the understanding that individuals will grow at different rates. Anticipated growth rates for each student are based on national norms and should be viewed as typical growth, not expected growth. This is important, and we will talk about it more later. Teachers will use MAP test data to help guide instruction in the classroom and create flexible grouping to better differentiate lessons. When the teachers examine the MAP scores, They can find the specific strengths and areas of growth for each student. They can then plan and set goals for each student. Teachers use other standardized tests, formative assessments, and summative assessments, and map data to monitor students' progress and make plans for students' learning across the year. The MAP test report will provide teachers with additional knowledge of where students' strengths are and if additional support is needed in any specific area. How can parents use a MAP test? Parents can use the MAP test scores to celebrate their children's learning and growth and support what your child is doing in class. Remember, an assessment is a form of communication. When your child did this test, they were communicating to us and to you what they could do at that point in time. Let's take a look at some examples of MAP test results and how we can interpret these scores. When you receive your child's MAP test, it will look like this. It will have 3 sections for the 3 tests that were done. If your child has been at KIS for a few years, there may be a 4th section showing science scores from previous years, but we no longer do those tests. So let's start by explaining what each part means and how to read and understand it. Here's a close-up of one of the sections, math. The first thing you'll probably want to know is, what's my child's score? The Writ score can be found in 2 places. It is shown in the bar graph on the left and the chart on the right. What is Writ and what does it mean? Well, it stands for Rash Unit, and it is a statistical way of measuring and displaying the millions of results from around the world. It has the same meaning regardless of grade level. Perhaps more important than the Writ score is the student Writ projection. This is the Writ score, or improvement, that children of the same age as your child typically achieve when they do the test again in the spring. It is based on data from millions of students who received the same score in the same grade. As statistics works, about half of the class will reach their Writ goal. That is why it is typical, not expected. When a child does the test again in spring, there is no point in saying to them, I expect you to get a 226. They don't know what they have to do to get that score. All we'll ask is that children do their best on the day. To repeat, statistically, it is typical that in a group, half of the children reach their projected score and half do not. It is possible to see where your child is in comparison to the 2 other norms. The district grade level Writ mean is the KISJ grade level mean, or average Writ score. This is the average score for all students in the grade at KISJ. The norm grade level mean Writ is the mean or average Writ from all students in the world who took this test and are in this grade. The Writ score has a standard error of measurement. That means the exact score your child is capable of achieving could be different from the score he or she got on the day by up to 5 or 6 points. Many variables could have caused the standard error. Your child may have not had a great night's sleep, or been tired, or may have been hungry, or just had a day where they couldn't do their best. We all have days like this. The growth projection is, as mentioned earlier, the improvement that children of the same age as your child typically achieve when they do the same test again in the spring. In this table, there is also the actual growth your child made from fall to spring. It aligns with the graphs. As you can see, we have no data for spring yet, so we will not have growth results. But we do have a goal for spring, 11 points. Again, be aware it is almost statistically impossible for every child in the class to reach their growth projection. Statistically speaking, 50% of the class will be reaching their goals. In this example, the child's growth projection is 12 points, so she did not reach her growth goal last academic year. She only grew by 5. But the year before, she got very close, a growth projection of 15 points and a growth of 14 points. And the year before, she achieved her growth projection easily, a growth projection of 20 points and a growth of 25. This is your child's percentile. The way of thinking of this is, if there were 100 children who took the test, this child would come 83rd, or in the 83rd percentile out of 100. With huge numbers of children, they are divided up so there are the same number of children in each percentile. Your child also has a range that she or he could fall into. In this case, the child could have come anywhere within the 91st to 97th percentile. Again, many variables could explain this. The goals performance, once again, based on millions of students who did this test in the same grade, shows how your child performed. Using a division scale called percentiles, the scores are broken down into 5 categories: low, low average, average, high, and high. Percentiles mean exactly the same number of children lie in each category. This also provides a further breakdown of how students did within each area of the test. When you receive your test back, you're going to want to talk to your child about your MAP test results, and here are some important things to remember. With your child, always look at the big picture and don't just focus on the number. By the big picture, I mean your teacher does not label your child according to a number on an assessment. Your child is much more than a number on an assessment. The MAP test is just one measurement your teacher may use to measure a child's growth. For example, in reading, your child's teacher has done an assessment with each student called Fontes and Pinnell. This gives the teacher a very accurate indication of your child's reading level, so the teacher can set individual goals. Find evidence to celebrate. There is evidence to celebrate for every child. Don't just look at the numbers. Look for the growth as well, as we spoke about. Growth is to be celebrated. And set goals at home that your child can work on. Setting goals at home can give your child the same kind of focus your teacher at school. Maybe the focus is for a junior elementary student now could be reading for 15 minutes a night. Later in the year, the goal could be increased to 20 minutes. For writing, a goal could be to keep a diary if you are going on a holiday, or write a letter or an email to a friend or relative once a week. Parents can use this information at home to celebrate the child's learning and growth and to support what the teacher is doing in class. To help your child with reading, there are many things you can do. First, provide lots of opportunities for your child to read. Children learn to read best when they have lots of opportunities. Reading with and to your child in any language is a great way for them to develop their reading skills. Making time for your child to go to a library or a bookstore helps build their interest in reading. Playing word games like Scrabble and categories is also another great thing. Build a culture of reading in your home. It's hard to ask your child to read every night if they don't see you as a parent also reading for enjoyment. And give your child a lot of choice in what they read. Helping your child improve in their language. Talk to your child and encourage English conversation. Give a journal or a diary as a gift. Help your child write a letter or an email to a friend. After finishing a chapter book or a magazine, have your child describe their favorite part. Encourage your child to use full sentences. Don't just accept drink. Make your child say the full sentence. May I have a drink, please? You can help your child with math by having them engage with different board games, card games, problems, and puzzles that involve math. Another opportunity is in the kitchen, where they can use and consolidate math skills. Cook together and measure and time precisely while cooking. Involve children in projects such as planting a garden, fitting in new furniture, and estimating how long a drive will take. Encourage your child to read and interpret charts and graphs found in magazines and websites. And lastly, when you're communicating your results, if you would like to talk further about your MAP tests, you can contact your child's teacher during parent-teacher conferences to have a further conversation. I hope that you found this informative and you're able to make understanding of your students' MAP test results.